So, you signed up to give your life for liberty, but you've only received 15 minutes of training before they shipped you out for the real deal. Super Earth would like to thank you for taking a break from your cryo sleep to learn the best builds for every mission you could be sent out on in Helldivers 2. We are only going to cover operations available on Helldive difficulty, so if you're struggling on lower difficulties, I suggest that you get good and get good fast. Managed democracy waits for no man. We're going to start out by covering the bug-specific operations, then we're going to get into the bot-exclusive missions, and then finish with the endeavors that we must endure when fighting on both fronts. Real Patriots, smash that like button and subscribe. Now, let's dive right on into it. I plan on covering what stratagems are best for each specific mission type, but before we get there, we need to talk about our weapons loadout. When fighting the bugs, you really want your primary weapon to be able to deal with bugs that get close to you, and there are a lot of good picks for this. The sickle and the blitzer are two of my favorites. However, there is no debate that the incendiary breaker is the best tool for this job. For my secondary, I really enjoy bringing the grenade pistol because it can pop bile spewers and close bug holes when you need it to. Then for my grenade, I carry the incendiary impact. I use this to create a wall of fire for the bugs to fling themselves into. Its utility is that it can also be used to close bug holes, but the thermite grenade is a close second for me. Now that we've covered what we're carrying, let's get into the best stratagems to nuke nurseries. Wow, that sounds kind of evil saying it out loud, but Super Earth wants to ensure you that we are the good guys and that the bugs do not have feelings. And if they are allowed to fester and reproduce, they will surely take all of our freedoms and liberty. So you'll want to start by bringing a turret to protect that payload. The machine gun sentry is probably the worst option, and the autocannon is my favorite. Then I like to bring a weapon stratagem to deal with those big bugs. I prefer the commando because it's new and shiny, but also it does the job. Next, a walker, because there's no better tool to hold your ground against the tyrannical terminids than an exosuit. I prefer the Emancipator, but the Patriot's a good option as well. When taking down those nurseries, you want to clear out all the bug holes around the area to stop those squirmy little insects from spawning. Then set up a perimeter with your turrets and call in your exosuit for that extra firepower. If you do all this, holding your ground will be simple, and the biggest challenge will be not being blown up by that nuke when it goes off. Now you may start to wonder why we are even here if there's no humans on this planet to liberate. I assure you there is a perfect reason, and we'll get into this with the next mission type. Transferring element 710 is what fighting the bugs is all about. You'll need to hold your ground against a lot, so you'll want to start off by grabbing another sentry. Just make sure that you drop the sentry strategically so that you can pop the butts of chargers, which is another reason why the autocannon sentry is my favorite. If that doesn't work, bring a 500 kilogram bomb or two. You'll use these to take out those chargers. Hitting one of them on the move can take a decent amount of skill, but if you're playing on Helldive consistently, that's a skill that you've acquired. The primary target of these booms are going to be those titans though, and try to be conservative when using them against the hordes. The best tool that you can use to take out these will be the orbital gas stratagem. Whenever you see a bug breach, make sure to break out this raid to spray it on there. Next, I bring an exoskeleton to hold off the waves at critical points to ensure the efficient extraction of this oil. Since you won't have a heavy weapon stratagem with this build, you'll want to focus on keeping the bugs distracted for your teammates. But thankfully, there's no lack of weapons scattered around the map. Now let's get into the easiest mission against the bugs: destroying their hatcheries. I bring the 500 kilogram for utility. It can be used to take down armored bugs, and you can take out large chunks of those eggs. Next, let's grab the raid to spray those breaches. You already know the orbital gas strike can take out multiple super cracks and stop waves of those bugs in their tracks. This often results in quite the kill count. Then I bring the spear to finish off those big bugs. And the orbital rail cannon can be used to delete chargers. Of course, you can always take a walker against the bugs, yet this video would be pretty boring if I was suggesting it on every bug mission. Now that's it for the bug exclusive operations, so let's talk about my general loadout for mission types against the automatons when fighting against the bots. My primary weapon slot serves a much different purpose. Devastators are the largest largest threat, so I make sure to bring something to deal with them. The Dominator is great for this and can be used to take out the rank and file efficiently. However, I don't think there's anything better than a blessed bolt gun to deal with them. Oh wait, Arrowhead calls this the Eruptor Rifle. Then for my secondary, I bring the Senator or the Redeemer, exclusively to deal with bots that get up close and personal and that don't respect my space. After all, they are programmed to hate freedom. Next, in my grenade slot, I prefer the standard impact grenade to slap any of those filthy socialists who group up together and try to unionize. Many of the times, this is my last line of defense when all my magazines are empty. Now that we have our general loadout, let's jump on into automaton-specific operations, starting with taking out their command bunkers. Destroying these bunkers is one of the easiest mission types if you know what you're doing. The orbital laser is a must-have for its ability to rapidly take out these bunkers. Then you'll want a mortar sentry to take out everything inside of the bunker's hill. On colder planets, the quasar cannon does a great job of taking these out at a distance. And for your fourth slot, anything to take out armor in a pinch. My personal favorite is the orbital rail cannon for its versatility in taking out command bunkers as well. Now let's go a little deeper behind enemy lines to sabotage some air bases. For this mission type, I'll start with the airstrike. It's useful to take out hordes of devastators, but it can also be used as a rapid response to take out the dropships on the landing platforms. Next, I'll take the spear for my tool to take out fabricators at a distance and deal with any armor in my way. Then I'll grab the beautiful 380 millimeter barrage. It is fantastic for taking out those dropships. And when you need to call in a broken arrow, it does everything that you want it to do. In the fourth slot, I love the orbital rail cannon. When I need to rush the air traffic control tower, it can make quick work of any armor or fabricators that are in your way. Don't forget that fences are also destroyable. The faster you can take out these towers, the more time that you have to grab samples. And that'll wrap it up for the missions that you can only do against the automatons. So let's dive right on into the mission types that you need to complete against the bots and the bugs. Starting with the eradication missions. Against the bugs, you'll need to bring things that get rid of bugs fast. Mines are great to place and forget about. They'll rack up a kill count without you even thinking about it. But don't forget to bring some type of tool to deal with the big bugs. A precision strike or a 500 kilogram would work perfectly, almost as well as the spear. Of course, the walker's always great to deal with those situations that only an exosuit can get you out of. Yet the most useful tool that you will have on any eradication mission against the bugs will be a sentry. Just look at my little friend here go. These adorable automated guns will do all the heavy lifting for you. These missions are almost tower defense missions, and you will be in and out incredibly fast with these turrets doing all the heavy lifting. Now, obviously, the eradication missions against the bots are only slightly different, but grabbing some turrets is a necessity because you will spend a lot of time running and hiding. My personal preference is the mortar on these because they can deal damage while being tucked away in a hidden spot. Then I like to bring the autocannon to deal with any armor. You'll want to find a high point or a position behind a wall to place both of these close together so that they can function as an automated part of your team. Then you'll always want to defend them against any and all of those bots with chainsaws for hands. Eventually, you will get overwhelmed, so try to land on one of the many plateaus when you get called back in. The next stratagem that I like to bring is the commando. But honestly, the expendable anti-tank or the recoilless rifle might even be better for taking out those big bots. There's nothing better than the Emancipator Walker, and this is the only mission type against the automatons it is remotely useful. Even if you go down, you can go down in a blaze of glory. But I find that these maps are often so rugged that you can normally fight until you run out of ammunition. Now let's rush on into the Blitz missions. Without a doubt, the Emancipator Walker is the most important stratagem for closing bug holes. Call this in as soon as you drop into the map so that you can use one for extraction as well. And you'll start by blitzing the closest holes in the area that you land. The next thing I like to bring is the grenade launcher, for obvious reasons, and then a jetpack for additional maneuverability. Then you can bring an offensive stratagem of your choice to close those bug holes. I personally prefer the precision strike. The grenade launcher will do the heavy lifting for you, and the orbital strike is to take out anything else if you get into a bind. Don't forget that those shrieker nests also count as bug holes, because destroying every nest as soon as possible is critical for success. If you throw a precision strike at the base of a shrieker tower, the orbital bombardment will land directly on top, destroying it. Obviously, the blitz against the bots is a much different mission. Their factories are far more durable, but with the correct loadout, they are no more difficult. You gotta grab that Eagle airstrike for its utility. Then the new commando can accomplish the task of taking out fabricators. If there aren't trees on the mission you're on, the spear is perfect for taking these out. Don't forget you can sneak past patrols. Eliminate those buildings and then ghost. The third stratagem has got to be the orbital laser. This can take out a large outpost in under a minute. And then I bring that precision strike for utility and to take out hulks. These are some of the highest priority targets that you'll have when fighting the automatons, but you'll have a higher priority in the high priority evacuation missions. These are some of the most fun defensive missions. This makes the mortar turret your best friend. Toss it behind your defensive fortifications to buy yourself time. To deal with the Titans and Chargers, bring the recoilless rifle so that you have a regular supply of rockets. And then any exosuit is critical for buying yourself time. The most important stratagem is the toxic gas. This can be used to stem the tide of small bugs while you deal with the bigger ones. Moving on to the high priority evacuation missions against the bots. You are going to want to lean into mortar sentries and bring both the electromagnetic mortar with the regular one. Of course, the recoilless rifle is good for the same reason that it is against the bugs. The major difference between the two is that when you're fighting on the bot front, you'll want to bring an Eagle airstrike so that you do not get overrun with multiple factory striders when they show up. Now let's move on to the next evacuation mission, an emergency evacuation against the bugs. These operations are definitely a time investment and might be the second most challenging mission type. When you are fighting the bugs, you'll want to focus on a highly mobile build. On cool planets, I bring the Quasar Cannon and the personal shield backpack, which is a powerful build. On warmer planets, you can always bring some type of anti-tank rocket, but I will always bring a turret to distract those chargers. If you pair this with the 500 kilogram bomb, you'll be taking out armored bugs faster than they can spawn, and I don't mind suggesting the orbital gas strike again because it is amazing for keeping the bugs at bay. And while this toxic smoke can take out the bots as well, my build against them is slightly different. The shield and Quasar are perfect for fighting them too, but since I did not do this run on a cool planet, I took the commando. The math works out to be about one rocket every 45.5 seconds, and there's the added bonus that the rockets can take out fabricators, then the 500 kilogram to dig yourself a foxhole to take cover in. The main difference between the bots versus the bugs is that I bring a mortar turret so that the majority of those terminators are turned into scrap before they even get a chance to open fire on me. But let's get into the best way to take out enemies at a distance with our next mission type, launching the ICBM. Launching an intercontinental ballistic missile is surprisingly easy in Helldivers 2, and you should be able to complete this mission with any stratagems. However, I bring my favorite stratagem, which is clearly the 500 kilogram Eagle. I genuinely did not realize how much I used these until I started making this list. But the next one I bring is the Patriot exosuit, mostly because it's fun. Then I bring the orbital laser because there are 3 objectives and 3 uses of this stratagem, so the math is just perfect. Then I like to bring the autocannon so that I can slap those chargers on the butt after I dodge them, but the automaton's cheeks are much harder. You might actually need to take this mission more seriously. When launching the big boom against the bots, I always like to bring a sentry. You can bring a mortar, but I prefer the autocannon because it does an amazing job of taking those gunships out while you're trying to pump fuel or turn on the power. Next, I take the best tool for taking out those ships, and that's the spear. It can automatically lock onto them and one-shot them. Not to mention that it can one-shot hulks and tanks if you hit them directly from behind. Its great utility is that it is a tool for dealing with armor, and it can take out those turret towers in a snap. Also grab the Eagle airstrike. Its primary purpose is to deal with the factories that stride. It accomplishes this by making more direct contacts with its explosives. Then I obviously bring the orbital laser for the same reason that I bring it against the bugs. It can be used to delete those striders, making it much easier to hear that beautiful binary death screech. The only kind of good data is deleted data, which is the covert reason for our next mission type, uploading data against the bugs. I cannot suggest that you take an SMG on this mission. Sure, you can carry the data card, but you're going to spend the rest of the mission running away and getting overwhelmed. I tried it so you don't have to. However, bringing the jump pack is critical. This additional mobility is more than enough to make up for the fact that you can't really fight while carrying that SSD. And in general, it is incredibly powerful against the bugs. It can be used to clear gaps and climb cliffs. With this build, I bring the flamethrower as well, because it's the best way to deal with chargers. Yet, you'll want to bring plenty of tools to deal with titans too. This is typically a long mission, so elites will spawn in higher quantities the longer the mission goes on. In this example, I took the orbital rail cannon, but in the game's current condition, the precision strike is just better, with more skills required, which is why the Eagle's 110 rocket pods are also a great choice. They won't be able to one-shot anything, but they can deal a massive amount of damage and be a finisher. In stark contrast, this mission against the bots requires a completely different build. This build is a little different, but it is one of my favorites. I grab the pummeler so that I can carry the SSD cards. And then I take a ballistic shield so that I can use that submachine gun while blocking. Then I enter ghost mode once I grab that data card. Sneaking is your best friend, and you'll either want to take out patrols rapidly or avoid them completely. For the second slot, I bring the expendable anti-tank rockets to deal with heavy enemies. But I found that the commando may be more efficient. Trying to hit a gunship with that EAT can be enraging, but satisfying when it connects. The next stratagem is my favorite, the 500 kilogram bomb. But the most important stratagem has got to be that orbital precision strike, and it is your best tool to deal a massive amount of damage to any enemy. The most important being those striders. Now it's time to discuss what is possibly the hardest mission type. At least it ranked highest in my polls that I took last week. I agree with that poll. The geological survey is one of the toughest missions in the game to accomplish, but thankfully the bugs are easier of the two enemies. I imagine the illuminate will be much harder once they get added. Yet, holding your ground at the end is the hardest point, so my build solely focuses on that. I start with a Gatling sentry to mow down the little bugs, and a napalm strike to box them out of the area while we are probing the ground. Then the commando to deal with big problems, and the 110 rocket to make sure that those problems are solved. However, this mission against the bots is the mission that I fail the most. But I have found a pretty sweaty build. I always feel like it's barely enough. So my approach to these missions is to get in, get it done, and maybe get out. To accomplish this, I bring the Eagle Smoke Strike. If you need it to, it can take out fabricators, but its primary purpose is to disappear after accomplishing the pre-objectives, and then to confuse those bots while I'm trying to accomplish the main objective. Next, I bring the autocannon to make quick work of devastators, and a mortar turret to thin out those hordes, because that final objective makes you feel like a lineman just trying to hold that pocket together for the quarterback to get the ball off. This is why my last stratagem is the orbital laser. It can delete striders and carve a way through the machine's mass when you need it to. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and help me on my long climb to 1,500 subscribers. Here's some content of mine that the YouTube algorithm suggests you'll enjoy. And then finally, leave a comment or like the video. All those things I'm supposed to say, but mostly just have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.